Well, in this video, I want to show you 5 simple tools that will make a big difference for you, whether you're a DIYer, you're into home improvements, you got a woodworking shop at home. They're not expensive, but they make a big difference. I use them all the time. So let's get started with the first one, and that's this mechanical pencil. This is different than mechanical pencils that are used for desk use, and the difference has to do with the thickness of the lead. This one's just about spent here, but it's 2 millimeters in diameter, which is about 4 times the size of a regular desk type mechanical pencil. So it's sturdier, the tip lasts longer, but what I really like about it is how finely you can sharpen it. Now, I don't use this pencil every time I need to mark a piece of wood or something, but when precision matters, you do want to use something like this because you want a very crisp line. And if you look here, you can see the end is spring-loaded, and it pushes out these 3 fingers. So you push it out, put the lead in, and that's fine. The tip is factory sharpened, not particularly sharp, but that's where the sharpener comes in. So this has an abrasive inside. If you look on the top here, you can see 2 different drawings of pencil lead points. One is pointy, and the other is a little bit blunt. And these holes regulate how much the lead goes in. So that amount of lead sticking out is going to result in a nice sharp point because there's a little bit more lead sticking out when it's put in this hole compared with this hole. And if you take a close look, that is an ultra fine tip. Now, if you find my videos useful, leaving a like down below helps the channel out a ton. And if you want to get the best in DIY, home improvement, woodworking, and modern self-reliance content every single week, be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell. Now, when you're buying leads for these kind of pencils, this is, by the way, this is made by a company called Stadler Mars. It's a technical pencil. Drafting people used to use them, I guess, when they drafted designs on paper. And then this sharpener goes with it. But you are going to have to buy new leads from time to time. And I recommend the 2H hardness. You can get things that are harder and softer. 2H is a nice compromise. It will mark your wood, but it won't leave a big gouge in it because it's too hard. So use this all the time. I bought this in 1988, and it's still working fine. So it's one of those lifetime purchases. Another thing, very useful, is what's called a combination square. They come in different lengths. This is 12 inches long, 30 centimeters if you're metric, and it does a couple of things. First of all, it's a handy 90-degree reference tool for when you need to mark things that are square. It's not super accurate. If you're getting down to adjusting, say, fine woodworking machines or something, you'll want to use an engineer's square, which is just a fixed piece of steel that is exactly 90 degrees. But for almost everything else, a combination square is great because it gives you the 90-degree reference. It also gives you a 45-degree reference, and it allows you to adjust and lock the ruler portion at different positions. So if you want to mark a distance a certain amount from the edge of a piece of wood, for instance, you can use this tool for that. This one has a little bit of a level in it. It's pretty small. You wouldn't really want to level anything that really mattered with something like this, but that is one of the features. Now, this tool is also one I've owned a long time, probably since the early 80s or so, as I recall. And I want you to notice something. Over time, the blade gets kind of stained. It's not exactly rust, but it must be some kind of corrosion, and it can be hard to see the numbers. You can see it's not too clear. You can make them out, but you don't have to put up with that because simple abrasion. Don't use sandpaper. I'm using this medium 3M rubbing pad. I use it for buffing down finishes and things, but it really brightens things up. The letters and the graduations won't change color because a good combination square will have those markings recessed below the surface. but it does remove the any oxidization on the blade, and you can see how much lighter and easier to read that gets. So combination square, definitely a must-have tool. Another must-have tool, it's pretty obvious really, is a tape measure, but there are some things you need to be aware of before you buy. The first is length. The smaller the tape measure, the better it fits in your pouch or your pocket, but the bigger the tape measure, the longer the distances you can measure. Generally, a 16-foot tape measure is a good compromise between those two. If you're doing anything from, building simple furniture to renovating or fixing up your house. 16 feet, that's good. If you're just working in the shop, you can get a much smaller tape than this. It's not only smaller in diameter, but it's also thinner in cross-section. 12 feet. Now that's pretty short for any sort of home use, home applications, but in the workshop, if you're building furniture and little built-ins and things, 12 feet is plenty, and it's really half the size of this. So a good thing to keep in mind. 35 feet, that's about as big as they get. I don't think I've seen a tape like this longer than 35 feet. If you need to measure things longer than that, then you need to get the kind of tape measure that's basically a reel. It's a cloth measuring tape with a reel. 50 feet is about the shortest. I have a couple that are 100 feet long for measuring for house building projects and things. So that's the tape measure story. Oh, one other thing. If you notice, all of these tapes have a pretty straight back to them. And that's important because sometimes when you want to measure the distance between two inside surfaces, the best way to do it is not necessarily to put the tape in front of it and measure it, but to, I'll just mock something up here, to jam the tape between the two surfaces and then lock it. Now the distance from here to here is what you need to cut that piece of wood or whatever to fit that space. Now, if you want a chance to get a nice drill driver for free, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'll be giving away this DeWalt Atomic Compact Cordless Drill Driver on March the 1st. More about that at the end of this video. Not all tape measures have a straight back that can touch against something positively and reliably. Some of them are kind of rounded, and that makes it a little tricky to know exactly where you've got the tape when you're measuring inside surfaces. So straight back, definitely a plus. I'm also a big fan of brand name tape measures. There's a million really cheap tape measures you've never heard the name of before. They're probably not going to last. They're probably going to turn out to be the most expensive option for you to buy a tape measure because they're not going to last very long. These tapes here have been around a long time. In fact, I did a video once where I drove over this tape with my truck on a paved road, and it still works perfectly. So that's the kind of reliability you want. If you want good tool performance, good results, and economical tool performance as well. Okay, this cordless drill, that's another important thing to have. I knew an old timer once. He spent most of his carpentry career before electricity became a thing. And then corded drills came out, and he's often told me, the handiest tool in the world, Steve, is a drill, an electric drill. And I would agree, cordless or otherwise. So what you want is typically an 18 volt, 18 or 20 volt, they're pretty much the same. If you see the words drill driver, that means that this thing can drill, like in full lockup mode. But if you set it to the driver mode, it will deliver a certain amount of torque and then no more. It'll make a kind of a buzzing sound, and it just won't drive anymore. And that's so that screws can be all driven to more or less the same depth if you have to do a bunch of those things. Now, this is a comparable drill, and I'm going to be talking more about that a little bit later in the video. That baby's going to be given away on March the 1st, but a cordless drill, really important. Don't pay any less at the bottom end than about $100 or so, because there are some very cheap cordless drills. I've seen one out there for $39.99, and that includes a battery and charger. That's just not going to last. you do need to pay a little bit above bottom of the barrel prices to get some decent performance. And I would argue if you think you need a drill, you're going to need a drill that works, right? And these really cheapo ones, they don't work that well. Replacement batteries are hard to find. I wouldn't even bother with it. Just spend at least $100 and probably some more for a good drill that you can rely on. It'll last for years. And this here, these are really helpful. And not just in the workshop. These are called cable clamps. I buy them by the dozen because I've got a lot of cords in my life. And these are a fabulous way to keep things in order. Big cords like this, small cords, you know, around your computer setup or something. There's all kinds of cords everywhere. These do a great job. They do come in 4 sizes, actually. I have 3 here. There's another great big one, bigger than this. But they work in the same way. I mean, you put them around the cord group, and you put them together, and it's got a kind of a ratchet thing, and it holds together. And then when you want to release it, you just pull it off like this. Super useful. I order mine from Lee Valley Tools, and every time I place a Lee Valley order, I add a few more because it's surprising how many you'll use up. There are a lot more cords in your life than you realize, and this can help you keep them under control. Now, one other thing, when it comes to putting cords together like this, I really don't like the wrap around your arm method, which is so common. And the reason for that is because that will impart a twist to the cord. Every time it goes around your arm, there's a twist, and it builds up. And when you go to undo that cord to use it, you're going to find over time it gets worse and worse. It's going to get kinked and curvy, and it's a big pain. So what I do is I take the cord, I lay it out full length, and then I just start folding it on itself. Half, until it's like this. No twist. It works really well, and with the cable clamp, it's all set and ready to go. Now, if you're looking for a new tool to add to your collection, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, because I'll be giving away this DeWalt compact cordless drill driver on March the 1st. I know from using this particular model in the past that it does a great job. It can take a variety of different size batteries if you want to extend the runtime, and it'll work well for you for many years. A cordless drill like this is certainly a mainstay tool for any hands-on person. In March, I'll also be launching something brand new for DIYers. It's a place to speed up your DIY learning tenfold, and in ways you may not have even thought of before. So stay tuned. Over the next month, you won't want to miss it.